But think so.
I don't know.
Testing.
Nope, neither one's on, and that one's broken, so.
Are we doing remote as well? Well, Henry's gonna try to fix it, obviously.
I guess so, anyways.
She'll start.
So Shabbat Shalom to everybody. So you did figure out with all the 3 emails this week where we were going to be tonight, so congratulations on that. As you know, Shabbat is our beautiful oasis in time on our weekly calendar. And so let's start our service tonight with just a moment of reflection and thinking about our past week. If you feel comfortable closing your eyes, taking a breath, do so. If that's really uncomfortable for you, don't worry about that. But think about, what happened this past week. Think about those things that you would like to take with you into the next week. And also think about those things that perhaps you'd like to leave behind. Maybe those things you need to leave behind so that you can be with yourself the way you want to be and in the world the way that you want to be. So we take a moment for silent reflection. We're going to continue our service on page 128 with the singing of Yedid Nefesh.
Yedid nefesh av harachaman, Yedid nefesh av harachaman, Meshoch avdecha, El retzonecha, Meshoch avdecha, Yalalalai, El retzonecha. ירוץ עבדך כמו אייל, ישתחווה עלי, יללי, אל מול הדרך. ידיד נפש אב הרחמן, ידיד נפש אב הרחמן, משוך עבדך אל רצונך, משוך עבדך יללי אל רצונך.
Turn back to pages 121 and 120 for the lighting of our Shabbat candles. Do we have a volunteer that would like to light our candles tonight? It can be anybody. All right. And you can come up with a friend, And we'll start with a reading on page 121 of your choice, and then the lighting of the candles.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As the brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Hopefully they aren't trick matches.
b'mitzvah tav, v'zibanid l'alei Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank
Shabbat
you.
shalom. We continue with a reading on page 127. The reading at the top of the page, let's read responsively. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain.
On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share.
There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted.
On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation.
There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others.
On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal.
So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. And we turn to page 138 for the singing of Lecha Dodi, and as usual, stanzas 1, 2, 5, and 9. And just before 9, we'll rise and face our door as we will literally, figuratively, poetically welcome the Shabbat Queen, the Shabbat Bride into our sanctuary, and not only into our sanctuary, but also into our hearts and souls as well. Lecha Dodi.
Wish I had a clarinet to do klezmer for you too, but I can't sing at that same time. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pene pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pene pene Shabbat nekabela. Shamor bezachor bediבור echad, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, בשם ולתפארת ולתהילה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי, לקראת לקראת כלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת כלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה, בראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי, לקראת לקראת כלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת כלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, אורי אורי שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי, לקראת לקראת כלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת כלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי כלה, בואי כלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת כלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת כלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לה 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 לה, לך דודי, לקראת לקראת כלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת לקראת כלה, פני פני שבת נקבלה.
And of course, with any time that we're rising and standing, since we have a variety of traditions, whatever your traditions are, feel free to rise and sit when you want to. We'll turn now to 142 with the singing of Shalom Aleichem. And this wonderful teaching that on Shabbat, we're supposed to imagine that we have two angels, one on each of our shoulders, that protects us when we walk home from synagogue. So I like to expand it to say that for the 25 hours of Shabbat, we have angels that are protecting us, whether or not we're walking or driving.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Hasharet, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachi Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. U'achem leshalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon. Mi melech malachi hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni leshalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon. Mi melech malachi hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. צאתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלאכי המלאכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 144, we find the Chatzi Kaddish that separates out our Kabbalat Shabbat part of our service tonight from our regular Ma'ariv service.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל. בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בעלמא, ואמרו אמן.
Page 146, we find the Baruch Hu, our call to worship. If it's comfortable to do so, please rise in body, if not in spirit.
Ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya 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 la 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 la. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la.
Please be seated. We continue on page 148. And before we read the Ma'ariv Aravim together in the English, I invite you to think about what it is in the natural world that you are radically amazed by, in the words of Abraham Joshua Heschel. Let's read together. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'arim, Aravim.
Did anybody see the lunar eclipse this past week?
Yeah.
We were in Utah,
Ah,
saw it over Big Mountain,
oh, how beautiful.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really
Huh.
amazing. Anybody else has, about 10:30 at night. It was a full moon and all of a sudden it was just getting covered. It was amazing. Yeah.
Called a blood moon.
Blood moon.
Yeah.
Beautiful. We'll continue on page 150 with the singing of Ahavat Olam as we praise God for the gift of the Torah.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chokim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu B'shochbeinu v'kumeinu Nasiach b'chokecha ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל.
Page 152, we now declare the oneness, the uniqueness, the unity that is of the mystery of the universe that we call God.
שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. 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 ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד.
Please join us in chanting the Ve'ahavta, page 154, and feel free to be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We continue on page 158 with the singing of Micha Mocha, our song of freedom.
Ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la la, ya la 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 la. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. מלכותך ראו בניך, חוקי הים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. יא לה 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 לה, יא לה 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 יא לה 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 לה, יא לה 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 יא לה 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 לה, יא לה 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 יא לה 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 לה. ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גל ישראל.
We turn to the Hashkivenu on page 160. Let's read together in the English. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace, and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Turn to page 164 for the Amidah. If it's comfortable to do so, please rise.
Adonai, sefatai tikachu v'yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, ומלך חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לפני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך חוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ויצחק שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים אתה רב לחופשיה. מוריד אתה, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו בשני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך מנהיג ומחיה, ומצליח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
And we continue the Amidah silently to page 178, and feel free to be seated when you are ready.
שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
Baruch atah Adonai hamevarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. You take a moment for silent reflection, and then we will continue on page 162. 162 at the top with the singing of Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
It's at this time in our service where we offer a prayer for healing. We turn to page 371. In addition to each and every one of us that has had to endure the last 2 years plus of COVID, there are a few people who have asked for prayer, who especially need extra prayers this Shabbat. I mentioned the names of Joy Lewis, Lucy Silva, Christine Weil, Minutba Yentl, Mordechai Bendina, Rowan Hausman, Anna Carlo, Judy Roheim, Fredel Tamara Batliba Bela, Menacha Pesa Batcharni Umoshe, Yosef Ben Fega, Gretchen Haynes, Dorian Reeson, Bob Smith, Steve Sinkoff, and Linda Weinstein. Are there any names that you would like to mention aloud at this time for those that you know who need our extra prayers for healing? Thank you.
Judith Von Bretnell, Storm Matthews, Leslie Barnard, Chief Sherelle Parfait Dardar and her family.
Jamie Mykoff.
Jamie Michael.
Anybody else? We also think of those names, perhaps that we chose not to mention aloud, but keep in our hearts. We think about those whose names we probably don't know, those who are living on our streets homeless, those who may have a roof over their head but are alone and lonely inside of their dwellings. And we are particularly mindful of all of the essential workers and the first responders, everyone who is related, whose job is related to the medical field in a variety of ways, whether or not it's doctors, nurses, technicians, or those who were preparing food in the cafeteria for patients and technicians. As we join, and we also, I would say, is we have been particularly mindful of Ukrainians, whether or not they are still living in Ukraine, trying to find safety, or whether or not they have had to flee for safety. We keep them in our prayers as well. As we join together in the middle of page 371, we pray for a healing of the body, the mind, and the spirit.
מי שברך אבותינו מקור הברכה לאמותינו, may the source of strength who bless bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Mitch, I just noticed that you didn't have your sling on. All right, so our prayers have been working for you. And maybe you've been taking care of yourself too. Good. It's just nice to see that.
I'm relieved to hear that it hasn't been fun, actually.
So throughout Jewish tradition, we are reminded that we were strangers, gerim, in the land of Egypt. In Exodus 22, we are taught, you shall not wrong a ger or oppress him, for you were gerim in the land of Egypt. And similarly in Exodus 23, you shall not oppress a ger, for you know the feelings of the ger, having yourselves been gerim in the land of Egypt. And in Leviticus 19, we read, when a ger resides with you in your land, you shall not wrong him. The ger that resides with you shall be to you as one of your citizens. You shall love him as yourself, for you were gerim, strangers in the land of Egypt. And in Deuteronomy, again, we read, you too must befriend the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. In all of these examples, we remember that we were strangers, gerim, so that we will be compassionate and welcoming toward the stranger. In all of these examples, we are reminded that we were strangers in Egypt, strangers in a foreign land. But something curiously different appears in this week's Parsha. Bahar teaches us about the sabbatical year, a time when the land is allowed to rest, and it teaches us about the Jubilee year, a time not only for the land to rest, but a time for both people and the land to be redeemed. In the midst of the discussion about the redemption of the land, we read, but the land must not be sold beyond reclaim, for the land is mine, capital M, mine. You are but strangers resident with me. This is God speaking. Jewish environmentalists often use this verse to show that we are caretakers, stewards of the planet that belongs to God. But given that Rabbi Appel and I will soon be convening a Beit Din for two women who are choosing to convert to Judaism, I am drawn to God's reference to the Israelites as gerim, strangers, not strangers in Egypt, but strangers in Eretz Israel. How can we be strangers in our own home? The late Rabbi Harold Schulweis talked about the phenomenon of Jews by choice often being more Jewish than Jews by birth that surround them. He describes these native-born Jews as Jewishly mute and neutral souls. Schulweis said, the question is not whether or not Ruth the stranger can be integrated into the Jewish family, but whether the estrangement of the Jewish family from Judaism can be overcome. It is the foreignness, the alienation of the Jewish family, he said, not the purported foreignness of the proselyte that is haunting. This is how we can be strangers in our own land, in our own home, in our Judaism. We are all strangers, whether or not we are Jews by birth or Jews by choice. The place where we need to meet is in God's sacred place, a place where we are not Jewishly mute, where our souls are not neutral, but rather a place where we sing out our soul's commitment to a life informed by Torah. Why not make this a Jewish summer? Gershwin wrote, "Summertime and the living is easy." I won't sing it for you. For many of us, summer often feels more relaxed than the rest of the year. Maybe the longer days just give us a sense of more breathing space. Summer is a great time to explore and expand your Jewish knowledge, identity, expression, and for the lack of a better word, spirituality. Why not take this summer to do something new, to learn something new, to think about something new? I'm going to suggest just a few ideas. Visit the Museum of Southern Jewish Living in New Orleans. Even if you've already been once, go again. If you've never read the Tanakh, the Jewish Bible, why not start now? A good place to start is with the weekly Torah reading, and you can find out what that is on our calendar, on our website, or on safaria.com. Buy a Tanakh, buy a prayer book, buy a Bible, and or a Torah commentary, and there are many to choose from. Here we use Eitz Chaim. There's also the Plout, the Women's Torah commentary. There's a social justice commentary. There's also a Musar commentary on the Torah. You can also sign up for the URJ's 10 Minutes of Torah at urj.org. As you know, the Tanakh is our most sacred, foundational, and thought-provoking text, and I think you'll find getting to know it extremely rewarding. Don't study alone. Find a chavruta, a study partner, or join our weekly Torah study on Shabbat mornings at 9:30. Another idea about Shabbat. Really take notice of the 25 hours of Shabbat and make them special in some way, your own personal way. Read Abraham Joshua Heschel's book, The Sabbath. Try doing Havdalah with family or friends outdoors. The Gates of Shabbat, which is put out by the CCR Press, has the blessings, some nice readings, and the music. Shabbat is our oasis in time. How can you make it yours? If you love to read works by Israeli writers and poets such as Amos Oz, David Grossman, Yehuda Amichai, and Naomi Reagan. Read a book by a Jewish American author such as Saul Bellow, Mordecai Richler, Philip Roth, Michael Chabon, Steve Stern, Cynthia Ozick, Marge Percy, and Anita Diamond, and Faye Kellerman, just to mention a few. Discover how rich and varied is the Jewish experience and expression. If music is your passion, get to know the treasury of Jewish composers such as Bernstein, Copland, Mahler, Schoenberg, Kurt Weill, Solomon Rossi, the Gershwins, Irving Berlin, John Zorn, or the treasury of the Sephardic, Ladino, klezmer, and Yiddish musical traditions, or modern Israeli popular music by Noah, the early Ofra Haza, David Broza, Boaz Sharabi, for example. Try out JewishRockRadio.com. Explore Jewish spirituality. Peruse the myriad of books on Jewish spirituality and expression at JewishLights.com and find something that fits you or stretches you. There are books on Jewish mysticism, meditation, Torah yoga, and sacred living, just to name a few. Or explore the offerings at the Jewish Spirituality Institute. You can't possibly try all of these, and I could have mentioned even more like Jewish cooking and all kinds of other things. But please do try something new, or take something you already do and do it more deeply. And please share your discoveries and your experiences with one another. Have a meaningful Jewish summer. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Before you move on, I have to mention one thing about music. For those of you who don't know of it yet, there is a treasure trove online available. It's the Milken Archive of Jewish Music. It's based in Los Angeles. There's a website, and if you just Google Milken Archive, you'll have a portal into one of the most extraordinary archives of Jewish music, much of it written in America, some of it Israeli American as well. It's where I discovered Dave Brubeck had written a jazz Shabbat service, for instance. Who knew?
Yeah.
Anyway, lots of incredible
Lots
surprises.
of things to discover that you may not know that are out there, so that's a good suggestion. Very good. So we'll turn back to our prayer books, to page 570. Before the Elenu, we counting the Omer, and as you may know, this is one of my Omer counters. You can also go online and have a Bart Simpson Omer counter, or Rabbi Karen Kadar has a beautiful Omer counter in a book, and also cards. There's lots of different ways you can do it, or you can just look at a calendar and count day by day. So let's begin with our blessing in the middle of page 570. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sefirat ha'omer. So hayom chamisha v'shloshim yom shehem chamisha shvuot la'omer. So today is the 35th day of the Omer, which is 5 weeks of counting of the Omer, which means that we are getting closer to 49. For those of you who may or may not have known, yesterday was Lag BaOmer, often in Israel you have lots of bonfires on Lag BaOmer, and it's that one day that's kind of a break from all of the days of the Omer, the 49 days between the second day of Pesach and Shavuot, which are considered kind of minor days of mourning. And Lag BaOmer is like a break in that, and often people, 3-year-old boys might, in traditional circles, would get their hair cut for the first time. You can have weddings on Lag BaOmer, all kinds of things. But it is also very traditional. If you're near a beach, I think if you're near a body of water, to have a big bonfire where it might be safe to do so. So we do count the Omer day by day, and we're getting closer to 49. We're now going to continue with the Elenu that we can find on page 586, 88, and then 91. And anybody under the age of 13 would like to open the Ark doors tonight? If so, come on up. And Jacob is getting closer to becoming bar mitzvah. And then you can ask for volunteers to open the Ark. Right?
That's a different kind of graduation.
Which one?
This one goes first. Go on and goes first. עלינו לשבח רצון החום, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון, ולא צמאנו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם, ואנחנו עולים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושך יקרו בשמיים מבער, ושכינתו זו בכל אלה אלוהים, הוא אלוהינו אחד, אמת דרכנו ופסולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת Adonai hu Elohim, bashamayim mima'al, ve'al haaretz mitachat ein od. V'ne'emar v'chaya Adonai v'melech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
Please be seated. We turn to page 595 as we prepare for the mourner's Kaddish. There are stars up above so far away, we only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. You find the Kaddish on page 598. And we are saddened to announce the death this week of Joanne Strickler, and our hearts go out to your family, Jane. We are in the period of Shana up to 1 year for Judy Waxman, Lorraine Beverly Sclaver, Jerry Harold Chenevert, Mark Cohn, Jimmy Brownleader, Michael Carpenter, Wallace Dunham, Sheila Parker, Francis Edelman, Jean London Eisenbach, Fred Cantor, Miriam Mimi Grossman, Elizabeth Saxey, Marvin Bender, Donald Austern, Elaine Garver, Dr. Robert Feldman, Eileen Burton, Virginia Gordon, Bruce Dunham, Jim Bullman, R.B. Dickerson, and Moni Meyer. We are also observing Yahrzeits between this Shabbat and next Shabbat for Judah Bauman, Jake Chapman, Ronnie Lewis Chenevert, Max Lewis Gumelski, Bertie Berenson Haspel, Bertha Kern, Beatrice Rubin, Leanna Samuels, Bertha Wolf Seidenbach, Ronnie Schab, Jax Sherman, Jenny Sherman, Rhoda Sillins, Jake Slipman, Earl Buddy Suffren, and Alan Tatar. If there are any other names to be added to the Yahrzeit list or the pronunciation of any names to be corrected, please do so at this time.
My aunt Ruth Shearson, Dietrich Fischer-Dieskau, Barbara Rising, and Spencer Grist.
We also think of those who died in the Holocaust at this time who may not have anyone to say the Kaddish for them. Zikronam livracha, may each of their memories be for a blessing as we now join as a congregation to support the mourners among us, and please either stand or remain seated depending on your tradition. Yit Gadol ve'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah,
Be'alma divra chirutei ve'amlich malchutei, b'chai echon u'yom echon, ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל, שמי קודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו
Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And together we say, Amen. Please be seated. And Mitch is going to share some announcements with us before our closing song.
Welcome to those who have come from far and near. Additional information on these announcements is available in the weekly bulletin. Tomorrow, here at Jefferson Highway, there will be Torah study beginning at 9:30, followed by Shabbat services at 10:45, and that will be followed by a Kiddush luncheon. Services will be in person and YouTube. Also tomorrow at 10 a.m., there will be a Shabbat minyan at Kleinert, which is in person only. Tomorrow evening, Esther and Victor Saxey will host a Havdalah service at 8 p.m. via Zoom. The special congregational meeting will be held Thursday, May 26 at 6:30 p.m. here at Jefferson Highway. Please plan to attend. If you're unable, send in your proxy. The meeting includes a presentation by the architects on the status of the renovations and additions to the Kleinert facility. There will be a vote on certain financial matters. Information on the resolutions has been emailed, and reminders will be sent during the week. And there'll also be a Zoom link if you're unable to attend. Refreshments will be provided, and additional parking is available next door over here. The Rayner Center is having a graduation, is that what they? Yeah, and so it's the same evening, so it should be a little wild around here.
The kids start at 6 o'clock, so we
6,
got a
yep,
little
yep.
head start.
The farewell to Rabbi Appel and Appleby and John Leo is scheduled for June 3rd at 6 p.m. here at Jefferson. Refreshments and babysitting will be provided. If you need babysitting, please contact Melissa with your child's name and age. Takum Shavuot is scheduled for Saturday, June 4th from 7 to 8:30 at Kleinert, both in person and Zoom, and that will be followed by a dessert social. If you know anyone graduating, please let Kathy know so she can include that information in the May newsletter. And also contact Kathy or Melissa if you wish to volunteer for an ONAG. And then also, my last comment is please consider making a donation to help the Ukrainian people. And that could be done through the World Union for Judaism Ukraine Crisis Fund or any Ukraine support organization. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And just a reminder for Shavuot Saturday night, we'll have a study session. We'll actually start with the desserts, so it's good to be on time. We'll start with the food first. And then Sunday morning, we'll have the festival service, also with the Yizkor as well on that Sunday morning service. And that Sunday morning will be at 10:30, and that will be here. Our closing song tonight can be found on page 625.
that esoteric old favorite, Adon Olam.
And the question is, which melody are you going to do?
Any,
Because there are lots of melodies, including every university's fight song has been put to Adon Olam as well. But,
I'll do a traditional one.
yeah.
Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yetzir nivra ve'et nasa v'chefzo kol azai melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora ve'hu haya ve'hu hoved והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשילו, להכבירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה, והוא אלי וחי גואלי, בצור חבלי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, בידו אפקיד רוחי, בעת אישן ואהירה, ואם רוחי גווייתי, אדוני לי ולא יירא.
Shabbat shalom to everyone,
Shabbat
and we
shalom.
will have Kiddush and Motzi out in the foyer, or foyer, depending on how you say it.
Terrence, I'll be right there.